Today I'll be showing you how to operate an offset smoker. This is my 34th gallon offset smoker. The first thing that we need to talk about is wood selection. So this is pecan wood. You can use pecan, oak, hickory, cherry, whatever, just any hardwood preferably. But the main thing is the moisture content. So this right here is roughly 10 to 15, and this one is roughly 20% moisture content. So you want to start your fire with the lighter moisture content because it'll burn better, be easier to start. And then you can do the majority of the cook with the higher moisture content because it'll burn longer. So the next step of the process is going to be lighting a charcoal bed. This just speeds up the process for the coal bed. This is a charcoal chimney basket. They have various sizes, but this is the one that I have. So you'll use this, and you'll use lump charcoal is preferred. Briquettes are just not as good, and I believe that they don't burn as long, and sometimes they have weird flavors. So lump charcoal preferably, but you just fill the basket up. All right, once you got the basket full, this is a fire starter. They make various kinds, doesn't really matter. I will say though, the tumbleweed fire starters are really good. I just don't have any. So stick the fire starter underneath the basket, the torch, you can use a lighter, whatever. Light the fire starter. Takes a little bit, it's kind of humid out here. All right, it's lit. Now you just let the charcoal ignite and burn until the top end has a cherry red look and you don't see any more white smoke coming out the top. The next step of the process, once your charcoal has been burned down, as you can see, there's no more smoke, it's pure heat. There's that cherry color that I was talking about. It's time to go ahead and dump it into the firebox. Make sure you wear a glove because it's hot. Stand back. Not really ideal for this situation. All right. So next step of the process is going to be constructing your coal bed with your wood. Be sure to use the properly sized wood, the length or the width of your firebox so it doesn't obstruct, and make sure that the bottom pieces are going to be the lightest in moisture content so it burns better. So take your wood, and my charcoals are kind of messy, so I'm going to adjust them, make it more even. Be careful not to burn yourself. Then you're just going to place them flat down, like that. This one is like 25 probably, and I'm going to put it on top. Once the bottom piece is light, it'll light eventually. Now, take your torch, and you're just going to light it. Alright, so next up is you need to make sure that the cooking chamber door is open and the smokestack is open to allow all that thick white smoke to escape the cooking chamber. Those are bad compounds that are coming out of the wood, and you do not want those flavors in your smoker. Alright, so I like to use a leaf blower to accelerate the burn. As you can see, it makes the fire go a lot better. This will create more heat, and it'll actually ignite the wood a lot better. Initially, it'll try to smolder, and it'll have a hard time starting. So if you use a combination of a torch and a leaf blower, you'll accelerate this process. Next step is, while your first course of wood is burning down to create a nice good coal bed, you want to prepare your meat. Alright, so the next step of the process is going to be stacking your wood on top of the firebox. It's really hot right here because the fire's inside. So what you do is you stack it on top to preheat the wood, get it closer to temperature so it'll ignite faster, and it'll make it to where you have more consistent temperatures. You won't have as much temperature fluctuations. All right, so the next step of the process is going to allow your first course to burn down into coals before you reconfigure your fire. But the main purpose of this is to get a good coal bed and to ensure that your smoker is preheated, because if you don't preheat your smoker, you'll have really big temperature swings in the beginning, and it'll kind of just set your cook off on the wrong foot. So if you preheat your smoker, you'll have more consistent temperatures fluctuations. So the next step of the process is once your first course of wood has burned and it looks like it's ready for the coals to be broken down. As you can see, it's mostly white, not much flame coming out. It lets you know that you can break the coals down. So you just break them up. And because my firebox bottom is flat, there's a certain way that I like to configure my coals to allow optimum airflow. So what I'll do is I'll take whatever I'm using to break up the coals, and I'll make a channel at the bottom of the firebox. And then when I stack my wood in here, I'll have a pocket of air that will allow it to have a good airflow. And you can just take your wood, lay it in there, just like that. And then you use your leaf blower, and you slowly just give it some air. So once your fire is lit, keep the firebox door, the cooking chamber door, and the damper open until it is for sure lit. Last thing you want to do is just close it down and cause it to lose its airflow, and it'll make the fire go out because it doesn't have any oxygen. So just let it burn for a minute or so, make sure it's good and lit, and then you can close the cook chamber door, firebox door, and start adjusting your temperatures, getting it ready to put the meat on. All right, so let the fire light good, it's good and lit. So now I close the firebox door, and you want to make sure you leave it just a little bit cracked so it has some good airflow. You want air to suck in, keep the fire going, and it'll push and go across and out the stack. So over here, my target temperature is going to be 250 degrees. I'm cooking baby back ribs, and they're more lean than spare ribs, so I don't necessarily have to worry as much about rendering fat. So I'm going to focus more on smoke flavor. So I'm going to go at 250 degrees. But I'm going to let the temperature get up to 250 degrees. And once it gets up to 250 degrees, I'm going to put the meat on. All right, so the next step of the process, once the temperature is up to 250 degrees, time to put the meat on. Be sure that when you're putting the meat on, that you're not putting it too close to the firebox, because typically the firebox is usually going to be the hottest side. And another tip is if you're doing ribs, kind of scrunch them up, because however they lay is however they're going to cook. Alright, so once you put your meat on, you're going to let this go 250 degrees for the first couple hours. You shouldn't have to spritz. Once the meat starts to dry out, look like it's drying out on the surface, you'll have to spritz. So after you put your meat on, you're going to watch your temperatures and adjust your fire and your damper as needed to control the same temperature that you desire. Alright, so temperatures are starting to drop off, so I broke down the coals as much as I could, and now I put another log on there and I'm about to get it started. let that go for a couple seconds. Make sure it's good and lit. Then we'll close the firebox door. All right, so now that the fire's going, we're gonna go back up to the temperature gauge, and it's gonna accelerate as the wood lights. We're going for 250 degrees, as stated previously, and we'll just watch the temperature and watch our fire and adjust the temperature as needed. And you continue this process as you go through the cook. Same process. You may have to configure your fire a different way sometimes to get it to do what you need it to do, but it's just learning your smoker and fire management is the key. All right, so the next step of the process, it hasn't been 2 hours like I said, it all just depends, but it's been around an hour and a half. But as you can see, the ribs are starting to dry out. There's really no moisture on the surface of the ribs, so you need to go ahead and sprints to prevent it from being tough. I'm using apple cider vinegar to spritz. Now, I would say if you're cooking anything with a fat cap, the whole idea behind it is to render the fat, and if you spray the fat cap, you're gonna cool it down. So if you're cooking something like a Boston butt or brisket, only spray the meat. But with the ribs, it doesn't matter. You spray the whole thing. All right, so I've been maintaining 250 degrees for approximately 4.5 hours now, and the ribs are probing roughly around 175, 180 degrees. So 180, 180. So they're ready to wrap. I'm gonna show you the process that I do. That's what the ribs look like. I'm gonna show you the process of what I do to wrap ribs. Use Sweet Baby Ray's. And this is heavy duty aluminum foil. I like to double wrap the aluminum foil, because if you just do a single layer, then it'll tend to puncture and all your juices will run out. So then I use 4 pats of butter. Take the ribs, meat side down. One layer at a time. Fold it over. Fold it over again. Second layer. Pack it tight. And we're going to continue meat side down back on the smoker. It's a good thing we don't live in Oklahoma, otherwise this would be worse. All right, so continue the process. Sweet Baby Ray's, generous amount, butter. You can use brown sugar too, but it doesn't really matter. Just want to add some flavor. People got their own preferences. Put meat side down. Fold it over. Fold it over. Fold it. Fold it. Fold it. Tighten it. Meat side down. Back on the smoker. 250 degrees, 275 degrees. You honestly could even go 300. At this point, you're cooking in an oven, so because it's wrapped in aluminum foil. But this will help steam the ribs and it'll accelerate the cooking process. And they'll get done a lot faster. Plus, if you the ribs that tend to dry out along the way or anything that you're wrapping, it'll help soften it up. All right, so we wrap the ribs at 180 degrees internal temperature, and we're gonna continue to cook them in the wrap until they reach approximately 203 to 205 degrees, or until probe tender. So. All right, so the ribs have reached 203 degrees internal temperature, so I'm about to pull them off, pull them out of the wrap, sauce them, put them back on the smoker for probably 10 minutes till the sauce sets, and then they'll be done. Oh, tender. Yeesh. All right, we'll do the same thing for the other ribs. Now, if they're extra tender, a trick, rather than picking them up like this, turn them like this and put them on the smoker. All right, so I sauced the ribs and they've been going for probably around 10 minutes, just long enough for the sauce to sit. Now they are ready to be pulled, and then they'll rest for around an hour, hour and a half. You don't want to cut them immediately, because if you do, they'll just dry out once they cool down. So now we'll just loosely hold this back up. Put them on here. And we're done. Okay, so once you finish cooking, what I typically do is I'll just let the fire burn out and the coals cool down overnight. And I have this metal trash can here. They have smaller ones, but I decided just to get a big one. But the main purpose for having something metal is so you can put the coals in there. Even if they've cooled overnight, sometimes there'll still be one or two that are still lit. And if you were to put it in anything that's flammable, I mean, it would cause a fire. So, err on the side of caution, get you a metal trash can. And the plus of having the ashes in here is you can, once this gets full, you can actually use this as fertilizer in your flower bed. So, well, I hope you enjoyed the video on how to operate an offset smoker. Thank you for watching.